Charlie by Tones and I. This hour is dedicated to a conversation with transformation leader and mind power expert, Mr. Sunil Parekh.
Here we go now. Get set.
Afternoons with Annie.
94.3 Radio 1.
I spoke to Mr. Parekh more than a year and a half ago, I think. This was the year 2021. And this was through the pandemic when all of us were going through a really tough time. Where we, I think, were faced with what is called as not only an existential crisis, but a crisis of life and death on the whole. You know, it was where we faced realities far too close than we imagined. While we know about all of these realities, facing them on a daily basis or just watching and hearing about them is kind of traumatic. Well, I think it is quite traumatic. On the show with me today, Mr. Sunil Parekh, who happens to be a transformation leader and a mind power expert. Mr. Parekh, it's so nice to have you back after such a long gap.
Such a pleasure to be here again with you, Annie. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You know, you're an engineer by profession. Most of these conversations of having a different background and then ending up doing something else is what I have with those in the space of sustainability. But that is, of course, to do with physical sustainability. The space that you're in is very similar. It is about sustainability, but it's the sustainability of the mind, which is going through a lot of exposure, overexposure, I think, of content, of information, and it's very difficult to digest or even process them. So from being, an engineer and doing an MS in the US to becoming an engineer of the mind, tell us about that little journey.
Well, actually, it started with my own, the stuff that I had to face in my own life. So, in spite of being an IITian, being a gold medalist, doing my master's abroad, when reality struck in my life, when big challenges came in my life, I didn't know how to deal with it. So, I started wondering, nobody taught me in IIT, nobody taught me in...
Absolutely, something that our schools just miss out on, life skills, the most important skills that they miss out on.
Absolutely. And, that actually happened when my father just suddenly passed away. This was in 1994 and everything kind of turned around for me. At that time, it was very sudden. And, I was only 29. So I didn't know what to do. All kinds of problems happened in my business, ended up in a huge loss and all of that. So then I was seeking solutions. And I think I was very lucky to find a book which told me that you can actually, there's something called the mind. Because in school, we only taught about the brain, right?
Correct.
We never taught about the mind. So the book actually showed me how you can use your mind to solve any problem or achieve any goal. So when I started applying the principles that were taught in the book, I was actually able to turn around things in my life. I attracted some good people, things started to turn around. And I was able to come out of that death situation in about 2.5 years' time, which I thought was something impossible to happen. And it happened. So I said, wow, this stuff really works. Then, it didn't go well. So I had actually attracted some partners in my business. Didn't go too well with them. So I went to the corporate world, applied the same principles, Annie, in the corporate world. And I was able to go from general manager to chief operating officer in 5 years. Income went up from 10 lakhs to 60 lakhs. I said, wow, this stuff really works. So I call it the mind stuff, so basically learning how to use your mind effectively.
Right.
And then, about 11 years back, I quit my job and started doing this full time because I thought the world really needs this. Not taught in schools, and given the current situation that we are in, after going through the pandemic and the post-pandemic times, I think it is even more relevant today because
Correct.
Mental health, as you know, is probably a bigger challenge than the pandemic.
Absolutely.
So then, I said, so why not share this with the world? What I went through, many people are going through that. So me and my wife, we took a decision that let's do this. And we ended up starting an academy, and it's been God's grace. It's really done well over the last 11 years. And I was very fortunate to contribute in the COVID times because that time people just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
There was fear, there was anxiety, there was tensions, and they had no way of controlling the mind. Luckily, technology enabled us to do Facebook sessions and live sessions. And I was able to actually share with people what simple things you can do to really control your mind.
Yeah.
So that's how I went from computer engineering to human engineering. That's my little story.
Well, it's essential at a point when we really need transformation leaders, really, and experts of the mind, because it's all I think about, like you rightly pointed out, the game of the mind. Some of them seem to have cracked it naturally while they were growing up and they didn't really have to struggle with it. Many of them have had to struggle with it and still continue to, and the numbers are only increasing. We're going to slip into a song coming right back to continue with this conversation. And what are some of the important aspects of these programs that you conduct? Is what I'd like to learn from you. Don't go anywhere. This is Mr. Sunil Parekh, transformation leader as well as mind power expert on the show with me today. Stay tuned. TNCE with Move. This hour dedicated to a chat to transforming lives with the power of the mind that we learn from the mind power expert himself, Mr. Sunil Parekh.
Here we go now. Get set.
Afternoons with Annie.
94.3 Radio 1.
On the show today with Mr. Sunil Parekh, who's been transforming people's lives. He's been using this technique, which has also turned out to be a very powerful healing technique. A mind power expert and a transformation leader. Mr. Parekh has been doing this for over a decade, and I was introduced to him through the lockdown, and that's when I, got talking to you, and I put it out to my listeners that we can do something with learning to train our own minds and bringing it under a control to a point actually, that can give us some sort of calm, some sort of clarity in life. So what are some of these techniques that you use, Mr. Parekh?
So Annie, essentially the training programs that we do is essentially looking at two parts of the mind. One part is unleashing its potential, because the mind is unlimited in nature and it can help you achieve anything. Then the second part is the mind management part, which is the mental health. So essentially the program focuses on, essentially teaching people what the mind is, first of all. How does it work? And then how you can actually use its power to achieve your goals.
Right.
Everybody wants to achieve their goals, and when they're not able to do so, they're frustrated, they're unhappy. Yeah. But when you're actually able to unleash the power of your mind, you can literally achieve your goals. That's one part. And then the second part is, when we are dealing with day-to-day stresses and tensions and worries and past experiences, they kind of bog the mind down. The mind is not able to operate at its, peak potential, as we can call it. So I use a host of different kinds of techniques. Like you must have heard of techniques like NLP, hypnotherapy, EFT. EFT is called emotional freedom techniques. Recently, I've been learning theta healing. So there are various techniques, but to teach these techniques, it takes a lot of time. So what I did is I took the best of the best and created something which was very easy to apply for people. Very simple to understand and easy to apply. So that started giving a lot of good results, and it's really, really worked well.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's a combination. Yeah.
Sure. I remember attending one or two of your sessions, and I know how the EFT technique is something that I use ever so often for myself also, and I can say that it is beneficial. But when you put all of these together, and I believe that it needs to be consistency and discipline in being able to try and discovering your own self and discovering your own mind. Even in schools of medicine, say for instance Ayurveda, which comes from our very own land, it believes that the human body itself has its own power of healing. So I think it starts with the mind, it goes to the body. We can make use of these methods, which today we call alternative, but I think it's the most natural form. Unfortunately, we are not introduced to it early on to be able to discover this and its full potential. We're going to continue talking about this. Don't go anywhere. You also have started something new called as the 5 a.m. Club. And I think through the lockdown, when people approached you with so many questions and with answers, of course, I think they knew, but they couldn't accept it. Acceptance is a big key here. So we'll touch upon that too. Don't go anywhere. This is Afternoons with Annie. I'm with transformation leader and mind power expert, Mr. Sunil Parekh. Sherez with Hi With You, 94.3 DD1 One World, your station. I'm in conversation with Mr. Sunil Parekh, transformation leader and mind power expert.
Here we go now. Get set.
Afternoons with Annie.
94.3 Radio 1.
We've heard of many quotes that people have used in the past. We've heard of many phrases and idioms which talk about the power of the mind and how you can, navigate through any situation by being powerful for the good and, of course, powerful for the wrong. And so the power of the mind is something that I think for centuries now people have been exploring and discovering and learning so much more about. And every single time with new discoveries and new researches, so much more about the mind is being learned. So it's like endless, I think, the possibilities with the mind. I think, Mr. Parekh, with your expertise, you have been able to unleash those, qualities of the mind. And like you said, different techniques that can be put to use and how people can actually make use of this on a daily basis. Tell us of your experience, especially in the past 2 years. I know since it was the lockdown and people had the time to sit and focus on themselves, they came to you with their anxieties, like you pointed out. But then what were some of the learnings that you had for yourself from the people, and what were some of the changes that happened in their lives?
So I think the biggest thing which I saw in the past 2 years is that, when people are faced with difficulties, they have no idea of how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Especially something which we have never seen earlier. Like pandemic is something which is completely new. Nobody ever knows how to even deal with it. And you don't know what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
like there's uncertainty everywhere. Lockdown, ke upar lockdown. You don't know how many lockdowns will happen. So in such a situation, how do you take care of the mind? So then what I did was, the first thing I did was got on live on Facebook and started teaching people that, just follow these simple techniques and you will be able to calm your mind down. Now, the good thing is, or the bad thing is, that there's a part of the brain which is, part of our primitive times, when we were living in caves.
Yeah.
There was a part of the brain that got developed at that time. Now, whenever this brain senses danger, it's going to create all the stuff inside us, all the stress, fear, tension, worries. So when you use these simple techniques, like EFT is one of the very simple techniques. You just use it for 5 minutes and the brain calms down. So now you don't need any logic. You don't need any evidence. So people trusted it, they followed it, and they were able to kind of, keep themselves calm throughout this, the session, the difficult times. Now, one of the best things I would like to say, and I think that makes me feel really good, is that all the people who were connected, there was not a single casualty, not a single person passed away when they were following all these techniques. So that made me feel really good. And I feel that this was badly needed by people. But you know what human behavior is, right, Annie? Once things start getting good, you're back to normal.
Yeah.
So you're old.
You easily give up on it, and you think you've got it under control. I think that's where we miss the point. That's the point we actually miss.
Absolutely. So that is where the words which you use, discipline and consistency. These are two things these are the only two things that can train the mind. So I thought that what can we do to make this happen? That's where the 5 a.m. club was born. Because we said, can we get people all together every morning so that they practice it every single day until it becomes part of their DNA, it becomes part of their habit.
Sure.
And then obviously life becomes easy.
I also heard from one of the members of your organization, who's the one actually who introduced me to you, saying that there have been people who've been healed of cancers even. I want to know the truth about that when we come back on the other side. Don't go anywhere. This is Afternoons with Annie. We're talking about the power of the mind that can heal you completely with Mr. Sunil Parekh, transformation leader and mind power expert. Stay tuned. Sigala with Melody. This hour is dedicated to our conversation with Mr. Sunil Parekh, a transformation leader and mind power expert.
Here we go now. Get set.
Afternoons with Annie.
94.3 Radio 1.
On the show with me today with Mr. Parekh, Mr. Sunil Parekh, who is a transformation leader and mind power expert. And yes, he's been using these healing techniques through his foundation, The Rising Minds, reaching out to as many people as possible. Like he pointed out, it's a social initiative just to be able to raise the consciousness. I love that thought that you have, and it's inspiring to say the least. Mr. Parekh, when you say healing, people have been healed of a lot of different ailments. I know anxiety and stress is also an ailment. It's something that people can get used to when they don't know what the solution is, or they are too fearful to go after the solution. There are different situations. There are different layers to fears and anxieties as well. There's trauma from this life, past lives, as they say. I don't know how true that is, but there's a whole lot of trauma that you probably even earn in your own life when you were a child, when you didn't realize. So the healing techniques that you use, this heals children, adults, and everybody across the board, Mr. Parekh?
Yes, it does. Annie, as you might be knowing, and the medical world says this, that more than 90% diseases are psychosomatic.
Yeah.
They're connected with the mind. So as long as you're able to keep your mind in the right place, 90% of the diseases are gone.
Nice.
So then how do we release the mind of all those burdens? Essentially, the diseases happen because of stuck emotions inside us. Some trauma happened in the past and we were not able to deal with it, and some emotions got stuck inside. And these emotional disturbances within us, they affect our energy systems, like we call the chakra system or the meridian system, and because of which the flow of energy in the body stops, and that's why all the diseases are created. So 90% diseases are connected with stress and mental situations and things like that. So what we do is essentially use different techniques to release those unwanted burdens from the mind.
Right.
And once that is gone, the healing automatically happens. Body has the natural ability, like you said, it has the natural ability to heal itself. But because of these blockages, it's not able to do it.
Right.
Then we help people release the past traumas and the negativity in the mind and all of that. Once that happens, in fact, people's faces start shining, and in 15 days, like their faces are so radiant. And then they get comments like, "Which beauty parlor do you go to?"
I need one of these.
that
I need to
please
get
tell
back to this. Yeah. I definitely need one of these. So I better soon enough join the 5 a.m. club. That is so neat. This is so nice. Tell me about your website where people can, start following you, start looking up for details, and maybe join your programs.
So the website is www.rise, RISE, DA, D as in Delhi, A as in Apple, riseda.com. That's the website. And if they want to join the 5 a.m. club, there's a simple link. It's called bit.ly/my 5 a.m. club.
Okay.
So all of them is capitals. Only the 5 is a letter, 5. Anybody can join the club, and people are most welcome to be part of this initiative.
Oh, that is so nice. Mr. Parekh, thank you so much for the good work you are doing. For really, transforming people's lives. And we do need so many, many, many more people like you to be touching the lives of people and healing them. Thank you so much for all the work.
Thank you so much, Annie, for helping me spread this message. Deeply grateful to you.
It's an apt song I'm closing this hour and the show with. Survive my own mind. You can with the right techniques. All you've got to do is follow Mr. Sunil Parekh. The song's by Ashley Kutcher. I will be back tomorrow, 12 noon, 94.3 81. One World, your station. The show's called Afternoons with Annie. Till then, stay safe, stay green. Toodles.